Everybody, thank you so much for checking out another episode of Wicked Good Sports. We have a jam-packed episode. I mean, as always, that's just how we do it here at Wicked Good Sports. We're going to be talking a little bit about the J.J. Watt signing. He's going to Arizona. Very interesting. I have some thoughts about not only his choice of Arizona as a destination, but how that affects his potential to win a Super Bowl, how it affects the team, whether or not they'll win a Super Bowl. So that's going to be interesting. And then somebody who's in his new division who's probably not super psyched about it is Russell Wilson. Is he going to get traded? Perhaps to New Orleans? The mayors of New Orleans and Seattle may be beefing on Twitter. So stick around for that one. And then we're capping off the show with my friend Jack coming back to talk a little bit about the Boston Celtics. What's happening with them? Are they good? Are they bad? They're 500, so they're equal for both of those. But what are they going to be moving forward? He has a lot of good stuff for that part of the episode, and we're excited for you to check it out. It's going to start right now. So let's get into it. J.J. Watt is now a member of the Arizona Cardinals. That's right. So a lot of people were thinking that he was either going to go to Green Bay, he's a Wisconsin boy, or certainly I was thinking that he was going to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers because, well, both of his brothers are there and they're a decent team with some questions at quarterback. But he decided to sign a 2-year, $31 million deal with $26 million guaranteed. You really can't blame him for that, can you? I mean, I didn't think that J.J. Watt was going to be potentially worth this much in the open market. He's a bit older, but the Arizona Cardinals did struggle on defense, and some say that this is probably their biggest weakness and one of the main reasons why the Cardinals finished 8-8 after going 10-5 and won the year before and missed out on the playoffs in Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury's second year with the franchise. And I would be one of the people who agreed with that. I think Kyler Murray played great, not as great down the stretch, but he certainly had some really electric moments during the season, and I thought the Cardinals were good enough as a team to make and compete in the playoffs, but again, it was not to be. However, I'm not saying that this move's going to make the Cardinals a Super Bowl contender. I think that they're still a little bit away from that. They're going to get Chandler Jones back, and Chandler Jones on one side, J.J. Watt on the other. That could be a really formidable situation for their opponents, certainly. But I don't think this automatically makes the team good enough to compete for a Super Bowl, but I do think that they will get into the playoffs just based on, his veteran leadership and his remaining talent. And I guess it's hard to say what is his remaining level of talent. We probably won't know for sure until we see him on the field. He certainly declined and has dealt with injuries the last few years, but he was good enough for Arizona to give him $26 million. He was good enough for Arizona to give him $26 million guaranteed. And DeAndre Hopkins is certainly a happy man, as he tweeted to try to recruit J.J. Watt onto the Cardinals a few weeks ago. And then today, after the signing was announced, he tweeted that life is good in Arizona. And I would imagine that's quite true. So this really shines a light on how poorly Bill O'Brien handled the situation in Houston, trading DeAndre Hopkins and then leaving the team in such disarray that they pretty much were forced to release J.J. Watt. He didn't want to play for them anymore. And now they have their ongoing saga with Deshaun Watson where the team doesn't want to trade him, which I understand, but Deshaun Watson also doesn't want to play with them. So really good job, Bill O'Brien. Just excellent stuff. I actually do appreciate him as a Dolphins fan for all that he's given us in the Laramie Tunsil to Kenny Stills trade. But back to Arizona. I don't think this makes them a Super Bowl contender, but I do like the idea of making moves like this, especially when you have a quarterback on a rookie deal where you can afford to pay, good players, certainly at one point superstar players, a premium in order to get them to come. And one of my favorite parts about this, speaking of Twitter with DeAndre Hopkins, was this was one, announced that he was leaving Houston from J.J. Watt's Twitter, and then two, he confirmed it himself by showing a picture of him in what looks like a squat rack with an Arizona Cardinals shirt on, confirming that everybody who is saying that they had inside sources about him signing elsewhere were full of it. And really, you can only trust J.J. Watt when it comes to what he's doing, which was an interesting thing, and I think we're going to see that type of a thing fairly frequently moving forward. I mean, NFL players are realizing that they have platforms as rivaling the platforms that the team gives them through social media, and then I think we've seen it recently with some of the star quarterbacks that they realize that the game and the franchise really goes through them, and they have a lot of leverage similar to NBA players. So that'll be an interesting thing to watch moving forward. I'd love to get your thoughts on how the Cardinals are going to do with these former Texans, J.J. Watt and DeAndre Hopkins, and if you think that I'm wrong and they're more than just a playoff contender, they are a Super Bowl contender with this move. So from one star player who got away from the team that he no longer wanted to be a part of to another star player trying to get out of the team that he's currently a part of, we move on, of course, to Russell Wilson, who seems ready to leave the Seattle Seahawks. And just today, at the time of recording, Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkin told the mayor of New Orleans, LaToya Cantrell, to keep your eyes off Russell Wilson. His home is in Seattle, and this is, of course, in response to a video where LaToya Cantrell said, "I've been hearing the rumors on the streets. I don't know if they are true or not, but I want at Russell Wilson and Sierra to know that if the rumors are true, please know that the city of New Orleans will welcome you and your family with open arms. Hashtag NOLA. Hashtag who that." So I don't necessarily think that Russell Wilson's going to go to New Orleans, but it doesn't change the fact that Wilson is disgruntled with how the Seahawks seemingly disregard his input and prefer to establish the run during games rather than allowing him to pass, or as he says, let Russ cook. In addition, he is the most sacked quarterback in the league with 394 sacks taken in his career. He's currently in year 2 of a 4-year, $140 million contract, and he has a cap hit of $32 million this year. So something that makes the potential trade to New Orleans, a team currently $69 million over the cap, is that they, quite frankly, are just out of money. They can't afford Russell Wilson. They can't afford to add $32 million more dollars to their $69 million over the cap. So it makes New Orleans an unlikely landing spot, which will probably make Jenny Durkin pretty happy. But there have been reports that Russell Wilson will accept trades to a number of teams, and those include the Dallas Cowboys, the New Orleans Saints, the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Chicago Bears. And what makes the Chicago Bears particularly interesting is that they're being reported as being the front runner due to former teammate and close friend of Russell Wilson, Jimmy Graham, already playing for the Bears. Jimmy Graham was a player who did okay last year, nothing great. He certainly ended the season with a great touchdown. He caught it in the playoffs in garbage time. It didn't matter, and he left the field, which was pretty iconic. Definitely one of the more memorable parts of that game, unless you're watching a Nickelodeon, which I guess the memorable parts were the slime and SpongeBob, and young Sheldon. But I think the Bears would actually be a good place for him. So obviously the Packers are consistently very good with Aaron Rodgers, but I think the Lions got a little worse with Jared Goff instead of Matthew Stafford. And then the Vikings are middling to good depending on the health of Dalvin Cook. Really, it very much depends on him to open up the passing game. Granted, Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson are quite good wide receivers, with Jefferson making a case for Rookie of the Year that he didn't win. You can see in our previous video our discussion about that. But I think the Bears have an excellent defense and are a quarterback away from, I'll say, even going to the Super Bowl. So if Russell Wilson goes there, there's a good chance that they will be in the Super Bowl from the NFC, despite how good the Bucs looked, especially in the playoffs, and with the potential retirement of people like Drew Brees in New Orleans and their likelihood of having to release many players, and the Packers' seemingly complete disregard for putting an even better team around Aaron Rodgers. I think this could be the move that the Bears need to make in order to become perennial contenders. And I'd love to hear what you think. Do you think the Bears are the spot for Russell Wilson, or maybe one of the other teams listed? Do you think the Seahawks are even going to trade Russell Wilson, or do you think his contract makes it kind of untenable? It's obviously pretty good. There is an out after this upcoming year. We can get into that perhaps another time once we see whether or not he's going to be traded, but I think it's a really interesting topic, and this offseason just seems like such a huge season for star quarterbacks, especially to be on the move. And it's going to be very interesting moving forward, and we'll certainly be covering it on this show. All right, so I am joined once again by Jack. Jack, how are you doing?
Good, Brian. How about yourself?
Doing quite well, and I'm excited because, we're both Massachusetts, originally from Massachusetts, and we're just going to get right into talking about one of the big teams in the area, the Celtics. We've spent a lot of time talking to Chad about the Patriots, and I'm interested to hear about your thoughts on the Boston Celtics, who are currently 17-17 and 6th in the Eastern Conference.
Oh.
Jack, what is happening with this team this season?
Oh, man. Those numbers, just hearing you say them again makes my heart hurt, man. Like that, we should not be a 500 team, right? 500 win percentage. Oh, man. Straight up, I do not know what's going on, man. I don't know if it's bad chemistry and if it's bad vibes, if it's like Jalen versus Jason now. Like, I don't know, man. But it's been a struggle lately.
Yeah, so I guess we can kind of talk about. They have a very good record at home. They're 10-5, and then on the road they're 7-12. What is this? Why are these so bad on the road?
I'm still trying to figure out what it is. I know there was a period, and I don't want to put the blame on this. This ultimately comes down to the players, right? But earlier in the season, probably I think a couple weeks ago, they had a very long West Coast stretch where they're they play one day, they travel the next. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're professional basketball players.
Right.
They should be acclimated to this by now. But I'm gonna put a little bit of blame on that. I'm gonna put a little blame on the inconsistency of getting Kemba in there when he's not able to play night in, night out. Right, he's got to have his rest because of his knee, and then Jeff Teague sucks. So it's been tough.
Right. So I guess, you kind of talking a little bit about the lack of team chemistry this season. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter, probably just like reactionary Celtics fans, but being like, we need to blow this team up. It's over. Start from scratch. Where do you stand on that?
That hurts me to hear too, because from a green teamer that I absolutely am, I'm like, man, feed Jalen, feed Jason, and feed Kemba, right? But I don't think a blow up is necessary. I just think you got to get rid of a couple of guys and start cycling in guys who have proven they can contribute. I think get Jeff Teague out of there. God damn, I hate Jeff Teague. Seriously, I don't want to see him on the roster.
That's at least the one we can say we need to get.
That's one, please. Just ship him off to I don't care. I don't care. But he can go. Give Carson Edwards more minutes. He's a scorer off the bench. Pretty much anybody except for Tremont Waters and Taco Fall more minutes. Seriously, I love Taco too, but I don't know, man. We gotta switch something up here.
It's a bit of a meme in Boston
he is a meme,
adore him,
man.
But
he's 7'5". He could be elite. We need that. But no, do something, Danny and Brad. Figure it out, man. This is pitiful.
Well, I guess talking about that, what do you think a lot of this falls on Brad Stevens as his coaching job has not been perhaps up to par or even up to the levels that he'd shown in the past?
I think in the past, yeah. I mean, this is, I think, statistically, at least over the last 5 years, with the same guys, the worst he's been as a coach for a record, right? So it's not been good on that front by any means. But at the same time, every news conference you see, and maybe this is just the players sticking up for their guy, but they've been like, yeah, no, Brad is not the problem. And Danny Ainge is saying Brad is not the problem. He's shouldering the blame. But you wonder if there is something else in there, like what is Brad not doing? Like, can he not motivate them? I think his play calling is elite. I just think it's his overall presence, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think the problem is Brad Stevens. I think it's an on the floor issue.
Right. I guess kind of going back to what we talked about last week, and we'll probably talk about in the future with the trade deadline coming up. Are the Celtics going to be sellers or buyers? It's so hard to say, right? They're right in the middle. So, like, what do you think? Yeah, this is why I have you on to answer these tough questions.
Fair. So, man, I really think they're going to be buyers. I say that because you look at the records of the majority of the rest of the Eastern Conference, and like they beat the Pacers 2 days ago when they were the 4 seed. And the Pacers, they lost that game, obviously, and I believe they lost the next game, and now they're like the 8 seed. So, like that, the Eastern Conference standings right now, aside from the top being like Philly, especially, like it's pretty much up for grabs. The seeding is up for grabs. We're still too early into the season to know like what's going on, what's not. That said, I think we have the largest trade exception monetarily in league history from Gordon Hayward. Thank you, Gordon. Appreciate you. Have fun in Charlotte.
Yeah,
but like we need to get some help. Yeah, he's doing all right.
Yeah. So I guess if you could like have anyone out there that you'd want them to target, like a dream scenario as a player who might be available, who they might be able to have the resources to, one or two, whatever you think.
That's what is tough because you've kind of got. Kemba's not okay. He's a pretty traditional point guard, but he can also play off the ball when he can play too, right? And when Marcus Smart's back, it's fine, it's different. But we're missing that like elite center where it comes to. We have Tristan Thompson, and he's great at rebounding and all that. And Tice has really, really expanded his game this season, which he's done every year for the last couple of years. And everyone's gonna rip all over him, which is unfortunate because he doesn't get enough minutes, and he fouls out pretty much every game. But like, I don't know, man. There's something about having an elite center who is able to stretch the floor, which ironically, like, if I could say bring back Al Horford, I would love it. I think a lot of Celtics green teamers as well would love it, but I don't know. I don't know if he is the same player as he was 2 years ago when we all have those fond memories, So it's tough.
Yeah. So even with I don't know how contentious it was, but I know it got a little contentious with his exit from Boston. You'd still be all about him coming back. Yeah,
I mean, that's kind of water under the bridge for me, at least. I think he was a good personality. He's just a genuinely good guy. And I mean, Philly offered him more money. I don't blame him for that. And at the time, he thought Kyrie was going to re-sign, right? And he didn't think we were going to have he didn't think Kyrie was coming back. But he didn't think there was a backup plan at point guard. And we get Kemba, who's like not quite Kyrie. He's like B team Kyrie. And then there are a lot of interviews out there where Al was like, if I'm not going to say it would have been different, but it might have been different essentially.
Yeah, no, he couldn't have predicted what moves the Celtics are going to make. So I guess kind of on that thread, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about your feelings on Kyrie and the Nets doing so well. I know Kyrie's been a little MIA this season, but who knows? He's still a part of the Nets, who are currently the 2 seed with a 22-13 record. What are your feelings on that and on Kyrie?
Oh man, to be honest with you, I think it's funny that this was all. The Brooklyn scenario was always Kyrie and KD were going to go somewhere together, and that's kind of what it's always been, and everyone knew it was always going to be outside of like the general public, right? Like the NBA players knew that was going to be the case.
Right.
And when they both go to Brooklyn, it's kind of like Batman and Robin, which is funny to me because Kyrie's issue in Cleveland was that he was the Robin to LeBron. And I'm like, okay,
Right.
whatever, man. This seems like it's deja vu, but okay, sure. Didn't like being the only guy in Boston, so I'm like, okay.
Yeah, he got a taste of it.
Right, he got a taste of it. Now he's like, oh, you know what? Never mind. So anyway, he's in Brooklyn, and I don't know if they just felt they still weren't good enough or what was going on, but then they acquired James Harden, right? Mm-hmm. And that is the best big three in the league since probably like D-Wade, LeBron, Chris Bosh, right? Like hands down. And then now Kyrie suddenly isn't even the second best player on the team, I don't think. I think James Harden's playing the best basketball of his career. Kevin Durant looks like he's rested and he's good to go, aside from a couple of some nagging hamstring injuries, which I understand them being precautious with. And then there's Kyrie, and it's like, okay, if Harden's getting all the assists and KD's scoring all the time, what is Kyrie really doing? You know, he's not rebounding. He's like 6'1". He's like my height.
Right.
But I don't know. It seems to me, I think he's going to. Honestly, I don't know what he's going to do. This dude's out of his mind. He's so mercurial. Like I don't really. You can't predict what he's going to say or what he's going to feel. But I think end of the day, if he's winning, he's going to be content.
Yeah, I think.
But it's fine. It's fine.
A very common sentiment in Boston.
That's true.
It's so bad too because I was a huge fan of him.
Me too,
in Cleveland, and then him coming to Boston, I was like, "This is a dream." Like we got Kyrie. This is with Gordon Hayward. We're definitely gonna go to the finals with this team, and all that's gone now. And now we're at 500. And it's just tough. I want him to get better, but I mean, we'll see. I hope, like you said, there are buyers at the trade deadline, and we can come back on in a couple of weeks and be like, wow, this trade they made is great, and they're going to be great going forward. But,
I sure hope so.
We'll see. So is there anything else you want to add about the Celtics before we get on out of here?
Sure. One last thing, and I know that people like you and I will be pushing for the Celtics to make a trade. I think I think we're still in a good spot. We've got some good young guys, but Danny Ainge is notorious for saying, "Oh, we were this close to a deal and it didn't happen," and then we lose in the second round of the playoffs, and everyone's like, "Why didn't Danny make a trade?" And it's just a common theme. So. Wanted to cover my own hide here and say if that happens,
saying don't be
I
surprised.
will not be surprised. Yeah, exactly. Don't get your hopes up because that's probably going to happen, and we're all going to be disappointed. So that's a great way to end it,
fair.
I suppose.
I think that's a great way to end it. Jack, thank you so much for coming on. Where can they find you online?
Thanks, man. So best place to find me is on Twitter. I'll be complaining about the Celtics 9 times out of 10, and probably Jeff Teague especially. That's at Jack_Tiernan.
So go find him on Twitter. And Jack, again, thank you so much for coming on. This was a great conversation. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, man.
And we'll see you next time.
You got it. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you so much for checking out the podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Wicked Good Sports, or give us a rating on iTunes or Spotify, and we'll see you in the next one.